body here. I can't look. Bollocks!
That was a close one, chum.
Time to blip! Oh, hell's teeth!
Come on, you lot. Take the fight to them.
Hell's teeth!
What have you done? Die.
Well, hello again there, friends and fans. Raptor here, and welcome to ATOMFALL. This game will be releasing on March 27th, 2025, and many of you have had a lot to say about this one. Well, hello, welcome aboard, and good to see you all here again for more of ATOMFALL here on the channel. We did take a look at this one first about 6 months ago after I attended an event hosted by Xbox out in California. Yeah, I was able to try this game and Avowed and a few others that Microsoft has released since then, and a few more that are coming along the way. Well, when I put up my video for this one, you guys had a lot to say about ATOMFALL, and this game certainly is a game that reminds me a ton of Fallout, hence the name ATOMFALL, and also a little bit of maybe BioShock and maybe a little bit of Borderlands and a few other games mixed in. But with this being from Rebellion, and of course with a few other games that they've made recently, and of course over the long history that they've had, this one seems to be quite promising, and a lot of you said that the environments looked really good and that they needed to work on the AI and some of the combat, and that was about 6 months ago, and they may have gotten some feedback from then to be able to basically tweak some of the basic AI and also some of the combat for some weapons. But in this game, what we're showing here today, courtesy of the devs, and thanks to them for inviting me to a remote event, which you're going to see some footage where it's going to be rather laggy for me. It might be very smooth in video, but for me, things like blocking and shooting were rather difficult just based on the the environment in which I was recording. So take anything that you see gameplay wise with a grain of salt. It might be completely different for you if you're skilled, or maybe you'll fare worse than me. But in today's video, I wanted to goof around and toy around with some of the things that you guys had commented on in the previous video. I wanted to do a few things a little bit more stealthy and also get a little bit more up in the grill of the enemy, and like literally try to purposely get into fights that I could not win in order to see if the AI could outsmart me or outnumber me, or what they would do to try to defeat me. Now, this game features a beautiful, lush environment of, I'm not very familiar with the area, but a lot of people in the developers too saying northern England or northern UK, and this is based on something called the Wind Scale Fire event, which was a nuclear accident in the UK that was basically prevented by the actions of one guy who kept checking on the core directly, which theoretically would have killed himself to save millions, but luckily the guy ended up okay, from what I've heard from some of you repeating that story over and over again. So yeah, the combat here, showing off some of the early melee. Melee is tough in this game, very tough. It's not as satisfying as a game like, for example, Dead Island, and I really was having difficulty finding out how to block at the beginning, but it seems like some enemies are better for melee than others, and some of the guns they start us out with here are supposed to be early salvage guns that are supposed to purposely suck. Like, they really are bad. Like, not only my gameplay, but also some of the gunplay is supposed to be bad too. Hey, give me a break. Honestly, I was trying to rush to see all the things that I could do and also to explore the map that they let us explore, and so it is a gorgeous environment of a lot of cliffs and a lot of roads, and it reminds me of some of the areas in, like, what is called Apollonia from Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. If you're familiar with that game, and if you're familiar with that area, it really has a lot of, like, steep cliffs and narrow passages through some of them, and that's kind of what this reminded me of as well. Although this is taking place in the 60s in, of course, the UK, a lot of great other accents that I'm usually not familiar with, or that a lot of you have noticed for the first time, saying, hey, I'm from this area, or I grew up in this area, and it's great to hear accents that I grew up with, and that's really cool to hear. I mean, like, literally, I'm always happy to hear people reporting on different accents and different, like, people that are supposed to be present in these areas. So there's all these different factions that might be from different areas in the north that are all kind of like piled or compressed into this smaller map area, it makes it more interesting that way. And it certainly reminds me a lot of playing, like, for example, Chernobylite, or perhaps more appropriately, Stalker. Because, of course, in Stalker, you're dealing with a lot of different factions, and those factions are also kind of fighting for power and also against each other, and some of them like each other and some of them don't. There is crafting in this game. I'm showing you this here, and boy, I thought this bandage here was only for preventing or stopping bleeding as kind of a like a trait or a negative debuff or something that could happen, and I didn't realize that I could heal with this bandage. But I did know I could heal with food and things like that, so eventually I'll figure it out, don't you worry. But one of the coolest things about this game that I really like, and I hope to do a lot more of, is at the bottom of the screen there, you may have saw a metal detector, and that'll actually ping off whenever you're close to like some buried treasure. And so you can go to a some sort of a stash or something hidden like a satchel and dig it up, and it'll have things in there like ammunition and food and other things that you can use for crafting. And the crafting menu for this game looks pretty good and is your basic like 1 cloth plus 2 alcohol or whatever equals 1 bandage, and that's what will heal you. And of course the map area is much bigger than this. This is just a small area they restricted us to for this little demo preview. So it looks good, and one thing I really liked about the map too is it was very easy to read. I could pretty easily figure out where I was and where I wanted to go by looking at the roads. And I was trying to also get a scale of the map too, because it seemed like I would look at the map, take 10 footsteps and be like halfway across the map, because I think it was scaled down for this event. So the map is like a big scale map, so it was scaled down to where it basically looked like we were taking 10 steps and I would be in the opposite corner. But as you can see here, this metal detector detects a direction at the top with the lights and then a proximity with the number at the bottom. So if you're really close to something, you basically rather right click to dig, and then your character bends down and uncovers whatever might be there. So really good to be able to find ammunition or supplies that you need to craft something. And hopefully we get a stash in this game too, because I found myself constantly like full of inventory, like just not having enough inventory space to carry all the different guns, the different ammo for the different guns, different materials that I want, or rather special weapons like grenades and makeshift grenades or improvised, and also Molotovs too, which we're going to take a look at here in just a second. But what is that really weird purple thing there? I haven't quite figured this out, but apparently it's some sort of a, I don't know, let's just call it like radioactive bee or something like that. Everything that is radioactive in this game or that's a mutant seems to be like a purple-blue color. And so I'm not sure if this attacks everybody, if this is something that will be maybe an opponent for every different class or faction in the game, but we'll have to see. I'm sure there's some faction or class that is like, you know, become one with them, something like that. You know, they worship them, and I think I've seen that a little bit from the Druids, but we'll find that out in a little bit. And they're still frickin' attacking too. One thing that surprised me when you go into the pause menu in this game or the crafting menu, the game does not stop. So if you're trying to make something real quick, like a bandage, or try to get something made, and then like, you know, ammunition or something for your gun, not only of course do you have to reload that in real time, but you also have to do your menuing. So stealth is pretty important here, and I saw a great opportunity here for a group patrol to then fall victim to my Molotov. And yeah, anybody who has guns in this game is pretty damn tough, and they're a very good shot too. It seems like, I don't know if they've improved upon the AI or something, but rather than fighting against like overpowered bandits and stuff that I fought in the preview event, these guys actually seem to be rather balanced and a little bit dumb. And I've made this argument before, and many of you disagreed with me, but my argument is just this, that I like when the AI is a little dumb to at least give me a chance to fight back. If I'm fighting against, you know, 4 dudes who are essentially Navy SEALs, I have no chance, and I don't get to use any of my weapons or abilities, and I have to do all this crazy stuff to prepare for the fight, like setting up a mine and maybe like, you know, taking out a few people with a well-placed early explosive as well. But at least here, I had a pretty good chance, at least, of taking out the enemy with that Molotov, but they got me pretty good too. But the game at least generously saves a little bit before combat, and it also looks like those traditional, you know, the British red phones, whatever the proper term for those are, those things seem to be where things will save as well. I think maybe there I was bleeding out, and I didn't realize it at that point. I thought I got shot, but also taking cover behind trees seems to be very exciting. And the gunfights I got into by hiding behind a tree is actually quite fun. And, you know, the enemy, again, yep, very cracked shot. That guy, I think he had just a 22 rifle or a handgun. And that guy was able to take me out at range as well. So the AI actually smart enough to go to trees, take cover, and actually shoot at you rather than rushing you and just being stupid. Although some of them do rush you and they're stupid. So it does provide some sort of a diverse level of training for all these folks, where some of them are just idiots and they're just rushing at you with like a sickle or an axe. And then other people who will actually lay down covering fire, it seems, and will try to approach you. And I would assume with this group he would have tried to do that if I had engaged them all at once. Of course, there's, you know, certain enemies who will non-stop fire at you, but then there's others that seem to be quite intelligent and will take some sort of cover, or at least attempt to. So we're getting better weapons here, looking for different types of ammo and armor, anything that we can find in order to show it off in the game. And my idea here in this demo preview playthrough was to really truly try to expand upon the things that you guys were commenting on and some things that you liked and really hated. In fact, one of the things that everyone said that they hated the most was bullet sponges, and honestly I'm not seeing that as much here, and I'm not sure why. I don't know if they tweaked that or if the enemies I was fighting previously, when we were fighting in the previous demo, it was like we had a 38 revolver or something that was really just underpowered. But even when we were scoring headshots, it wasn't really killing enemies here. And at some point I will fight and fire the 22, and you know, the 22 is good for picking off people if they're in a vulnerable situation, like the ladders that you saw at the very beginning. You could knock people off of ladders, and it seems like they may die from the fall, but of course it just seems to be more wise to use shotguns and SMGs and or large caliber handguns if you can find them. I think they're actually, the handgun is a Webley, so whatever that might be, I'm not sure what the caliber is, but regardless, it's supposed to be, you know, your light handgun. It's not supposed to be as powerful as a shotgun close up, and there does luckily seem to be a big difference between the shotgun and how it feels and how it responds versus like a handgun. And a handgun feels really good too, because although it's more weak, at least it's very easy to use and like get a headshot with. So it feels satisfying to be able to use like a, you know, a weapon that's a little weaker yet more intelligently, and try to, you know, pick off enemies and hit them in their weak points, whatever it may be. So very cool. So a lot of people, again, just commenting on the distance of the combat and really saying the environment looks beautiful. The premise seems really cool. The idea of like a, you know, an irradiated northern UK, and having all these different factions that play into a couple of different games, it seems like, and yet some fresh ideas. It seems good, but the combat was the biggest thing everybody was really hesitant on. And I still am too. Even after playing like maybe about, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours now total, like I absolutely am sold on the game. Like I want to play the game. This channel happens to make videos on video games, and of course I stream them too. So definitely make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on that notification bell and hit that like button, because when this one drops, I think I need to do my due diligence and follow up here and really truly take a deep dive into especially the beginning of the game, as we're at this point, I believe we're several hours in, and the devs have, you know, courteously given us weapons to try and goof around with. And so I'm not exactly sure what we're supposed to do at the beginning of the game, but if it's like any sort of game we've ever played, which it probably is, you start with nothing but like, I don't know, a cricket bat and like some chewing gum, and have to work your way up by killing enemies. There is the nuclear power plant too. You can see all the radiation going up into the sky, and instead of it being green or you know, the traditional weird like stalker vibes, it's kind of more of a blue going on, and I'm not sure why that is, but it goes back to what I said earlier about the individual essentially looking into and like measuring the irradiation of the core to stabilize it in some event that I'm going to have to look up. That sounds really interesting, and I've looked into it a little bit more, but certainly want to find more information on that and see what they're basing that on, because I haven't seen anything official from the developers covering that, although it may be there. I haven't yet seen it. This is called a feral right here. This is an irradiated something, human or something like that. And they sit down in these little pods, and they're incredibly dangerous. I mean, I got infected and killed within seconds from these guys. And yeah, at this point I should be using my bandages and stuff like that, but it is at least showing off how quickly they can kill you even if you're at half health. And I spent a few of my perks that you may have also witnessed at the start there on health regeneration and the ability to disarm traps, which we're about to find a trap in a little bit, and it's pretty cool how I find it, and I hope to see a lot more of that, and it really gives me Fallout vibes for this. I like that a lot. Alright, So we're saying, you know, screw that to fighting these guys out in the tunnel, so let's take cover around the corner. This guy taking a couple of shots here. Now, this is like an irradiated enemy, so I would expect this guy to take a few hits with the shotgun. And luckily, we picked up an auto shotgun, because the one we had at the start sucked. It was like the breech load one-shot. And, yeah, you need every shot you can get with this game. But, yeah, that's how I know the enemy's called a feral there, by just looking at him. And now I'm going to try to do some stealth here and see, okay, are these guys alerted by sound or by sight? And I'm thinking in my mind here a little bit of Days Gone. Like, oh, okay, these must be like, you know, the zombie class or something like that. But this dude, within, again, seconds, takes me down, and they're just way too dangerous. So we're going to avoid that, and we're going to go to one of our first quests, which is at an area near a mine, or related to a mine, called Mother Jago. So Mother Jago is going to be a character that's going to ask us to go do stuff, and we're going to trade with her, and they're all fully voiced, and there's a few different dialogue options, which do remind me a bit of Kingdom Come Deliverance, and I think are way better than Avowed, although I do wish our main character was doing some speaking. I don't know if it's the type of game where it's supposed to be like, you know, you're the main character type thing because they don't talk, or if it's like how your character mostly is in the Stalker games. I'm not sure if they talk at all, but I don't remember hearing anything like that, and I can't think of any names off the top of my head. So it's just supposed to be forgettable generic dude, or whoever you want to be. At least that's what it seems like at the moment, based on what I played, but I would still appreciate a character a little bit more developed. Now, another thing that I needed to get used to in this game is the stamina in the lower right corner starts at 90. It's supposed to be your blood pressure or your heartbeat or your stamina, and it doesn't really seem to affect too much in the gameplay other than your melee attacks and your sprinting. So if you go full sprint, like up until, I don't know, maybe you die or take damage if you're sprinting at full heartbeat or full stamina, I'm assuming you could still run, but at maybe a cost. But regardless, if you stop running and start shooting and reloading and stuff, it's as if your character wasn't running that whole time. It just seems to be based on movement and melee combat, which also seems a little clunky too. I want to try melee more and perfect things like blocking. And when I was fighting some of the enemies at the beginning, I immediately went into like Kingdom Come Deliverance mode. Because I've been playing so much KCD2, I was just thinking to myself, like, okay, can I block and parry? Can I, like, is there a master strike? And I want that to be the case in this game. I really want it to be more than just like idiot enemy with a short knife tries to stab at you, but they lunge forward massively, and then you're just able to bop them in the noggin. Like, that seems to be what the combat is. And a little bit later, I get a knife, and pretty much seems to be what it is. But it also seems to be that certain character factions, or whatever enemy type they are, like dumb farmer tier, you know, we're not talking about a military trained person, but they will try to defend their land. They all have the same attack patterns, and that it almost seems like you're playing a Souls-like game where you're getting ready for all the melee, you know, combat of that game, where you see a particular enemy and you know what that enemy can do, so you kind of prepare to counter their moves or to move to their disadvantage. Another thing that I've noticed through this playthrough is that if you get close to enemies, they'll start to comment and say things like, hey, we don't know who you are, hey, what are you doing here, what are your intentions? So they basically say, hey, we see you, but we're not gonna, you know, we're only going to fire at you if we're fired upon. So it does seem like some of them have different doctrines or, you know, orders to fire at will, depending on where you are. There's areas where you can trespass into their base, and then it's, you know, no holds barred. They will go straight at you and try to take you out, and everyone will start coming to take you down. But in a second here, we're about to see a trap, and I'm excited because I actually spotted it quite nicely. Although it uses that thing that some people are really annoyed about. And I want to know, by the way, what you guys feel about the whole yellow paint argument. This game does seem to use yellow paint a little bit, and a little bit of yellow tape and some other things to say, hey, player, this way. But some of them, you know, the yellow tarps, I think I see or remember a lot seeing in Dying Light. So let me know, is that a good thing, a bad thing? I think, honestly, the perfect argument would be, in every game, there should just be an option to turn that off. Like, if you don't want any sort of, like, visual assistance like that, unless it's absolutely required for some reason, or in certain spots, I feel like it should be a toggle thing. Like, turn it up, turn it down, or turn it off, that kind of thing. So, you know, let me know what you think down below. All right, so we found another, you know, quote-unquote treasure, and I'm right on top of it. And I'm also trying to see if, like, anything changes based on how far you can get away with it. But it doesn't look like the treasure is actually there. You know what I mean? What I think it actually is there's a large circle around the player, and if you're in the beeping area, then no matter where you dig, your character will just spawn the, you know, the package underneath you. It's not like Sea of Thieves where you have to kind of like get almost precisely onto it. It just seems to be there's a large circle on the ground, and if you happen to be in that circle and dig, there you go. At first I thought that said Flight Sim, by the way, too, but it's a Flight of the Sun or Flight from the Sun, so cool stuff. But yeah, that inventory is so painfully small, man. I can't believe it. Like, you're wanting to try out everything that you got in these preview events because you want to show it all off, these different types of grenades and different types of ammo and different types of weapons, but it just seems to be Encumbrance City, which I guess if we have some sort of maybe a storage that we can take with us, that'd be a lot better. Like, if there's a cap on all your crafting materials, that's going to really suck, because then you're going to be ending up making a ton of ammo for guns that maybe you will or won't use, and then you end up not using them, and then you've got all this wasted material that you put into 9mm when then finally you find a shotgun or something like that, and then you would have rather have just kept them as crafting materials for other things like improvised explosives and maybe weapons upgrades and things of that nature. So but I do have to say, I love the look of the game. And they've done that typical trope that we've seen before where there's like a large road through the map. And there's all these little POIs. So like a boatyard or like a lumber mill or a hydroelectric dam seem to have like a little walled off area. Enemies are on patrol. They're walking around. They may have a stash in there or something like that. They don't want you in their base. And you can go mess with them, and there's some loot and booty in there. And later you'll have to go in there for a mission or something like that. But this game also does seem to have these large dungeon areas. When we get to a hydroelectric dam later, there will be a whole like we can actually enter an area, and there's a whole like interactive section of multiple doors that we can go through to access different sections of the dam that are that load in. So this does seem to be an open world game by definition, but it also has these like elements that will load in, and we'll actually have to like navigate that way and go through different doors to get to different sections rather than it being like, a sub-world. All right, let's listen up to Grandma here and see what she has to say.
Don't mind me. Everybody knows Mother Jago around here. I mean no harm. Folks that find their way to me are usually in need of something. What's on your mind, dear? Perhaps I can help. And it's always a pleasure to meet a wandering soul. Stay a while. Let Mother Jago look after you. I provide remedies and tonics where I can to those that most need them. And I can offer some other supplies too. Have a browse if you like. Still getting the hang of these woods, eh? Well, maybe I can help you with that. Like the rest of the zone, we've got our share of outlaws and things that bite and sting if you get too close. Then there are the Druids, the mask wearers, out in the thickest part of the woods. They've set up a little camp there in the ruins of the old castle. They hear what they call the voice in the soil and, well, worship it, I suppose you'd say. You mean those scientists and their secret workshops? Plenty of that over at the dam, I would expect. It's not so far from here. But you're asking the wrong person. I don't know much about their meddling. Listen. A curious soul like yours. Perhaps you are interested in a deeper understanding of this place. I can offer you that. If, in exchange, you would help me with a small matter. The Druids have something of mine, my herbalism book. I'd like it back. Nothing worth killing over, you understand? But I would like it back. They probably got it stowed away somewhere in their castle. Take care, won't you?
Yeah, so she tells us, hey man, don't kill anybody, but go get my book. But we end up slaughtering a ton of people, so, you know, whatever. It is what it is. I don't think it actually has any sort of impact on the factions to walk into their base and slaughter everyone. They'll be hostile to you no matter what you do. But another thing that was confusing in this game is the navigation, from what I've played, at least in this section, is very confusing. I can't find a way to like mark certain targets or to find out where certain things are. They'll tell you, hey, go here, and then you can hover over that location on the map and see what it is. So it'll say, hey, go to the mine, or go to this area to get to the entrance of this other area. And you can see where that is on the map, but it's rather difficult to like mark things and have it on your compass that up at the top. So you're constantly looking like, okay, I need to go west, but then when there's a roadblock in the way and you have to go east and then north and then back west, you kind of have to try to figure it out. Anyway, a little bit of stealth there, sneaking past those guys, and we'll have ourselves a, you know, the tripwire that I happened to find where it looked a little sus, and I come to a full stop, and I'm pretty proud of myself, guys. I'm very proud. I saw a little Molotov trap, and there is a perk to not only disarm those, but also to collect the materials from those, so, you know, string and maybe glass, and in this case, actual Molotov too. So, cool. We'll be using that a little bit later. But, yeah, so the navigation of the game, I don't know. It must be a me issue. I'm hoping it's a me issue. I just didn't have enough time to really like set objectives and look at main and side objectives. I tried to stay at least to the main objective, but wanted to goof around, especially looking for extra packages and satchels and other buried treasure. See if I could peek at lore from time to time, and also hopefully try to find some better weapons to show off stuff that's not just completely rusty. And another thing is that, you know, this is taking place in the early 60s. It's only been about, what, 15, 20 years since a lot of this stuff was made for the Second World War, just before. So, you know, a lot of it is just, like, horribly maintained, as if, like, you've gotten it out of a crate that was submerged in a river for, like, the entire time. So it's like, I hope there's a way to repair weapons or, you know, make them better. Although I haven't seen weapon durability, so a lot of you will probably be happy with that. For the cricket bat and for the axe and some other things, I don't recall if I've seen that. And same with the weapons, too, where it's like, oh, your shotgun's about to break. Go get some other, you know, springs out of the mattress and some other weird parts to then fix the shotgun. I haven't seen any of that. So at least, you know, for the inventory space that you have for items and ammunition, it seems to be separate from the crafting items, too. So, phone booth here, I think, is a save point, and it has some lore, I guess.
When possible. The woods are dangerous. Be careful.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know if that is always a hard save point, but I think it is. Plus, the game also auto-saves before you go into certain areas. And a sign here at the hydroelectric dam does say it's a restricted area, but we are pretty much able to walk through there with people seeing us, so long as we don't act hostile towards them. So, yeah, I saw a lady. She's already complaining at me. And I have noticed some things, too, for what looks to be maybe line of sight from the enemies. It seems like they can see you before you can see them, as if they have some sort of ability to see through a wall. And I also have had it happen a few times where eventually we'll get into some combat with druids, and they'll have some bow and arrow. And they've been able to shoot me through, like, the side of a cliff. You know, like there'd be a path that curves slightly to the right, so I jump back a little bit to hide around the curve while they're shooting their arrows, so then I can attack them as they're reloading, and they're able to hit me through like the curve of the path, and that's annoying. And I hope that's not the case for if an enemy is above us or something like that, where then they're able to shoot through the floor, through a wall, to be able to do damage to us or hit us, because it's like, you know, shooting through walls. Like, that's something you don't want. Now, this is a little light puzzle area, and I was able to get out the you know, the metal detector and go look for some more loot and booty. And I didn't really realize that this was an environmental puzzle. I thought maybe if you just went in there, so long as you didn't touch the electrical substation, you'd be fine. So I can pin down that it's inside this one here, and inside this like middle substation of the other two that are left and right. And some of the loot is not entirely worth it, but in a game like this, when health is a constant threat, every little bit of croissant or like a can of Spam is a blessing. And eventually we do get some other things that will buff our character to defend in battle. So we'll grab like painkillers, and what would you imagine that the painkillers would do? Heal you, right? But actually in this game, it gives you a damage debuff. So incoming damage for a period of time is kind of reduced. So for those of you who've been playing a lot of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, like me, as I'd mentioned, you can actually find things that will change the combat a little bit for you. So as you go into the game over screen or whatnot, or as you die, I just wanted to give an example to how fast the loading was. It doesn't seem to be very long at all, but I've done a hell of a lot of dying in this game, and I hope that that's not the case when I play for real. And I also feel like our character, up until a certain point, is incredibly underpowered. Like, just being detected and chased by enemies is just like, you may as well just restart right there. I don't like games that force you into combat when you want to do combat, when they give you the option, but when stealth is always like the more recommended thing all the time, that just seems annoying as hell. You know, in Hitman, it's a lot of fun to do stealth and to goof around with the AI and kind of troll them and set up traps and, you know, like, but you're still rather vulnerable. Like, you know, Agent 47 can take some hits, but for the most part, you know, you can't hold back an entire SWAT team. So it's always a more smarter idea to outnumber the enemy and rather outsmart them as they outnumber you. But in this case, you're always fighting in their territory, in their bases, and they also always greatly outnumber you. So it's kind of hard to do stealth when they're on patrol everywhere. And we'll see a little bit of that later where, you know, I try to do stealth, and then I come around a corner, and then there's enemies just sitting right there. And I don't think this game has any ability to distract enemies. I haven't found a ability yet to whistle or throw a rock or do something to get the enemy to move from their patrols or to investigate something. The best I've got is glass bottles, which of course are used as a crafting material in Molotovs, and that's about it. But anyway, I think we may have solved this puzzle. I'm not sure. I think I got it maybe on the second try, not knowing that that was what number of substation that was. So we got to pull the one for the middle. And yeah, there's letters all over that allude you to going to certain areas to, you know, like unlock loot and stuff like that. I'm not sure if that's why these 3 substations are here, but I could only imagine that in a game like this, you're going to be going back to some of these POIs, these points of interest, a few times to do a few different things. I really hope it's not like, hey, go into this hydroelectric dam and get a key for me, and then, you know, come back and give me the key, and then that's it. It's like, well, what was the key for? Like, give me another mission to then use the key for something else, or whatever. I hope that we definitely come back to these POIs a few times, and they're very well laid out, and I can't, off the top of my head, think of what they kind of remind me of. Maybe, I don't know, an earlier Ubisoft title or something like that. I know Ubisoft is getting a bad rap right now, but do you guys remember when they made good games? I mean, Assassin's Creed was good, and they made some really good stuff. And that whole Assassin's Creed formula was popping off for a long time. It was very exciting. And I think there's still a lot of good that can come from that formula. And I think this game takes a little bit of that too. But I also haven't seen the ability to unveil the map based on, like, climbing up anything. I'm guessing that when we get into the full game, the whole map or most of it will be revealed, and then some areas will just be kind of dangerous because you just are underpowered because you might not have the weapons. And it's not tied to a level, but it might be tied to your skills, which kind of is leveling, if you know what I mean. Where it's not, you know, as you level up you just magically do more damage, but it's more as you level up you get more skills. But more importantly for me, I'm the type of player where I need to die a lot and learn a game by pushing myself and it to the limits of, okay, what's usually a good idea, what's usually a bad idea. It is so difficult, folks, and I can't stress this enough. And if you've watched this far into the video, again, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section on this one, because I'm really curious. How often do you guys struggle, not because you don't game enough, but because you game too much, and it's hard to unlearn lessons from other games when you go to play a new game? You know what I mean? You've been going hard into Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, so then you jump into Avowed, or you jump into ATOMFALL, and then you've got to unlearn all of those games' previous systems. And that seems to be something that I do all the time, where I get comfortable and confident in one system, and I want it so bad to work in a game like this because I love it, and then I have to, like, unlearn it and then learn all over again. So I get in more trouble, not by, you know, being a bad gamer or something like that, but just being too much of a gamer, like playing too much of a particular game and wanting those systems to work, as if me magically playing this as if it were KCD or Call of Duty is going to magically make it be that kind of game, and it's not. But, you know, I always hope, and that's something I end up doing all the time. So now we're at another POI. I think we left the hydroelectric dam, and now we're at a logging camp where we're going to fight a lot of druids. Yay! And they're so fun and awesome. I love them. Actually, I do. They got great voice actings, and it seems like they hired different voice actors for different factions. So not only are they different voice actors to be of different accents from the UK, but they also seem to represent different factions within the game. So they're trying to represent different, I don't know what you call it, accents of the UK based on locality, but they're also trying to showcase that these druids here, like, they're kind of, as that lady said back at the ruins, she said that they hear the soil whispering. Now, this is another interesting thing, too, and we're going to cover this a little bit later. There's a bird up in one of the nests that you hear crowing, and that alerts the enemies. And I tried to find a way to stealth kill that damn bird later with a bow and arrow, and I just couldn't do it. And so I was trying at a certain point to just run through this part of the game. What the hell is that thing on the left? Like, is that creature that she said bites and whatnot? But I was trying to just avoid combat and see, like, okay, can I chase a bunch of enemies somewhere? Will they give up the chase? Like, does the enemy pursue you relentlessly? Or do they just kind of say, screw it, probably was nothing, and turn around? Like, what kind of a game is this? We've all seen those games where, you know, an enemy will see you, and then they'll stop pursuing after a little bit, or there's enemies that will pursue forever, and then there's others that are kind of just right, like they'll chase you out of the base, and then they're not stupid enough to leave their own base. They already did their job of getting you out of their base. So... also, a lot of booby traps in this game, too. I can't wait to... I think there's another one that I'll set off, and it's so cool to see. That guy took 3 shotgun shells, by the way. But some... I don't know if that was a fluke or something, but, like, other enemies will go down in 1 shot. So, bullet sponge is not hard... It's not a hard-coded thing in this game. Like, I've seen it mostly be more realistic. Like, a shotgun at close range kills. But these guns suck. So, I think they're trying to simulate gun sucks, so range small. By the way, that door over there on the left, I totally should have went into that castle door. Like the main doors of the castle, I should have just totally went in there. I was looking for this at this point as if it would be an open world game. So I was like looking for an open door and trying to go in. But I didn't realize it was segmented. And, you know, like there's different kind of instances or whatnot. But, yeah, now I'm trapped on some rocks and seeing if the enemy will attack us from here. And at this point, I thought I got killed by some people throwing rocks, but there are actually archers. So I was like, oh, what happens when I go up onto an obstacle? And in our previous playthrough of this game, I jumped up on top of a roof, like a, you know, just a small, like, garage for a vehicle, and the enemies were just standing there staring at me the whole time. And I was just thinking, like, boy, this is going to suck. Like, the enemies just stand there and don't react to you at all. Like, that's it. But luckily it seems like at least there's some ranged enemies now that aren't all just ammunition and like guns all the time. So the druids focusing more on being like farmers, so they're all armed with like sickles and farming knives as they call them, and also bow and arrow. So we will luckily eventually get a bow and arrow, and it's a pretty good weapon, but they are a little they're arrow spongy, let's say. I've had it take like 3 hits to the chest, like 2 to the chest and 1 to the head to take someone down, where I hit them in the head first. And I'm thinking to myself, like, how are they not taking an arrow at like almost point blank range? Didn't kill this person? Okay, let me shoot them 2 more times. All right, and there goes a trap swinging from the trees too, which was awesome. That was really cool to see the main road kind of defended like that. Love that.
Death to unbelievers.
And we're just going to kind of continue to run from these guys for a while. I'm trying to avoid the fight to see if I can get to somewhere where I can, like, lose them. And then try to be more stealthy and infiltrate. So there's definitely a section to this game where it's going to be a lot more difficult to sneak through certain areas. Because they're just massive. Like, the enemy here especially seems to have a massive base that is just covered in tall grass. And I feel like it's not going to be worth it, for me at least, to walk through an entire enemy base and then just be detected at the very end. Like, that would be so frustrating. And then to lose all that progress because, like, a bunch of people gang up on you is just totally annoying as hell. So anyway, I will eventually learn, and I'll try to start doing things stealth. But it seems like a semi-stealth is a little better here in this game. So try to, you know, take down a few enemies. But their patrols seem to be almost in their own world. If you have 2 patrols, like, think of a fork in the road. And if you wipe out a whole patrol with loud guns on one side, the patrol just on the other side of like some trees and stuff won't hear you. So people will call for help and be like, hey, he's over here. And a couple people will come over, but the whole base doesn't come running. It's like 5 or 6 people will come over, like the patrol itself and a few people nearby, but not the other patrol. The other patrol doesn't go to, you know, Patrol Alpha doesn't go to Bravo. to assist, and so it's super confusing. So anyway, but yeah, I just want to leave some of those deaths in to show like the loading time's pretty quick, but also they're loading us fairly far away from like the objective. So I'm not sure if there's like a quick save. There didn't seem to be one in this playthrough or whatnot. But again, this is kind of just it was a preview to just show off the gameplay. So I'm not sure exactly what will be here in terms of like save files, both quick save and like an exit save or something like that. I'm sure there will be something like that, but just not sure what. But looks like these guys' colors are also blue and white, indicating that radiation that's coming out of that nuclear power plant, which again seems weird to me. Everybody reminds me of like the Smurfs or Braveheart or something like that, but I don't know, it's cool. But yeah, I'm really hoping that there are missions for some of these factions where we aren't constantly fighting these guys all the time, because as you can see, they're a little dumb. Like, they're literally rushing me with a shotgun. And I think again, me shooting just a moment ago there, I think that really comes down to the fact that this gun is crappy and has a really short range. So like lower damage and lower range because it's crappy, more than these guys being a bullet sponge. Because I've shot people with the 22, and I feel like I've done more damage with the 22 with 2 shots than I did with the shotgun at like close range. But I think it comes down to the weapons, and I really want to get good weapons in this game, but they're all just like garbage World War II weapons. Not that they're garbage weapons, but they've been horribly maintained, and they're just not great. Which I think is design.
Yeah. Stay looky, mate. Fight for your lives.
Very smart of these guys too to come in one at a time against a shotgun. Very wise. If somebody has a shotgun and you see 3 or 4 of your friends die in front of you, it is a very intelligent idea to keep rushing that guy until he runs out of ammo. Like, apparently it's Soviet infantry tactics for these guys. Just keep rushing. Don't worry, his guns will run out of ammo eventually. Which, they're right. I mean, I've killed only like 6 or 7 people, and now all I've got is this grenade left. So hopefully that doesn't go haywire. We're about to see. But, and there's a guy running around. I've noticed this enemy type a few times. It makes me laugh. There's a dude who has like a logging axe, and he has like a Captain America style mask on all the time. It's just weird. I don't know why, but it's just funny to see this guy running around like attacking me with an axe. I find that hilarious. Alright, so now we're starting to see for the first time enemies who have a bow and arrow. And the cool thing is that when you throw a grenade, yeah, it'll bounce off enemies, and they at least seem to be stunned by that, so you can get a nice grenade kill. And the grenades also seem to have a very large radius for the explosion. Now, that was like a military grenade. I think it was like what do they call that, Mills bomb, or like a Mark 1 or whatever it's called. It's an actual military one versus like the improvised explosive that I'm throwing now, and then also the Molotov. And dying there, can you believe it? Due to like getting caught on a pole and not being able to jump through. So there is some fun parkouring in this game. Ledges and things like that will be an entire roadblock to your progress, because your character can't really jump too high over that stuff or like bounce off. Like if your character touches something, that's it. Like they're kind of held in place until you fully move around the object. Your character doesn't seem to be able to rotate around an object or bounce off stuff just to keep the momentum going. Okay, the crow is chirping again. The patrol's coming over. We're going to keep doing, the definition of insanity here. I'm going to just keep doing the same thing over and over again until it works. Eventually I'll learn, but also I feel like a lot of the combat in this game is going to be like this, where you don't want to stealth because that's slow and boring, and you don't want to shoot everybody because ammo is precious and you don't really have a lot of it. So there's going to be this like pseudo stealth running, like run through most of their base, see if you can find a couple of people who are isolated alone, kill them quietly, take their stuff, maybe you get into a gunfight, but by the time you're in that gunfight, you're at the edge of the base, and then you can kind of just escape and not really bother with these guys, because they'll infinitely respawn, right? Like, this ain't going to be the type of game where you just go into a base, kill everybody, and they're just dead. Like, it's not going to be that. I can't wait to do something with this grenade. You can hear the heartbeat going like crazy, too, for the stamina of sprinting all the time. And then getting bopped off to the side of the mountain trying to get back up. We'll be killed by arrows again, I'm sure. Oh no, we're being killed by the weird toxic snake. And then fall damage. Delightful. Yeah, delightful. Anyway, so I do really like that there's quite a few throwables. I hope they continue to add more of those, or that there's more. I think there was also like luring mines, But those mines that lure seem to be for a different enemy type, like not humans, but it seemed maybe it was a particular frequency for like the, I don't know, the Blue Man group that attacked me in the tunnel earlier, if you remember them. So I'm not sure. But yeah, look at that giant wicker man that they made to the Druids. Freaky. But the game has just, I really need to praise the presentation here for the world. Like, it's not bland or like open or like littered with waist-high cover everywhere. They've done a good job of making it seem like a very realistically on-foot type design game where it feels more like Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 walking around those paths and running by like horseback than it does seem to be open roads all the time, which is nice because in an open road you wouldn't want to be on an open road and just be something you avoid all the time. And then the only way to counteract that would be the developers to just litter the road with crates all the time, and I don't know, that just eventually seems so ugly and annoying. But here they've done a good job of making walking paths, and oh, there, nice trap, nice. I was trying to hit the enemies with those too, yep. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I think they've done a great job of the world presentation and design. The music seems really good, and and like killing enemies is really fun. I kind of want to go into like a, I don't know, an unlimited ammo mode and just shoot everybody and see what happens. Be kind of nice. But yeah, I am looking forward to this game. I think aside from what I mentioned, and in addition to those problems with the map that I've got to maybe see if I can resolve for myself, I'm totally sold. I'm playing a lot more of this one and finding out what the story is and like what's the opening of this game. You know, like how does it start? What do the developers really want you to do? You know, what's the overall premise of the game? And that's something I have to find out. But it definitely does seem to be maybe leaning into that whole Fallout New Vegas type storyline, and also maybe a little bit of you know, Stalker, which kind of has that same vibe too, at least in terms of the setup of the story in the world. All right, it is business time now. We're going to try a little bit of stealth. So birds detecting me. I'm trying to now figure out the things that will alert the enemy to our presence. Before I thought it was a tripwire, but it just seems to be a bird that will go crazy when you go near it. So I think I'll probably die one more time, and then that's gonna be it. Guys, I promise. This is the last death I will ever have in video game history. Okay, I promise. Also, another thing I've noticed after playing for a while, I'm always trying to aim down sight in this game, but you don't have to do that. You can just start shooting people, you know, without doing that. So you'll see me finally start doing that with the handgun and the shotgun, and you know, the handgun seems to be good at keeping people at medium range and trying to shoot them in the head or torso and then stun lock them. So, all right. Here I think we begin the big segment. The big segment now. This is where we're going to have a nice, clean playthrough through the rest of the game. So, if you just skipped to the point of this video, you go right back to the beginning, mister, by the way. You jumping all the way through the video. Who's doing that? Who does that? Come on now, pal. You're here to see the full story and get the whole scoop, right? You're not here just to grab this and that and cherry pick and then be like, game bad, bye. You're not that type of guy, are you? Oh, man, we got that guy here. I think he's here, guys. All right, well, we'll keep an eye out for him, okay? Security's been alerted. We'll watch and see if he pulls into the parking lot. Anyway, you go back to the beginning, pal. I know. I always catch somebody. So now we're going to just try to focus on stealth and monitor the patrols and do the thing that I kind of didn't want to do. Like, I was trying so hard to force this to be a game where I could just kind of, like, run through and shoot people a little bit and do a little bit of combat. Not quite COD, not quite Hitman. I wanted something in between, but it definitely seems to be a little bit more like, you know, Fallout, Hitman, you know, that kind of health level where you're not always, well, I mean, it depends. You know what I mean? But I'm just saying, like, it's the beginning of those games where you're supposed to be naked and you're just supposed to find a stick and then kill a guy with a handgun. Then that handgun, you kill somebody with a shotgun, and you start working your way up, especially with skills. And that is something that interests me a lot in this game, too, is how the skill system is going to work. It might be tied to quests. I haven't really seen any sort of inventory. When I open the inventory, I haven't seen a notice of XP based on if I've been killing enemies or collecting items, or if it's based on like performance of, okay, the more you sprint, you get, you know, points for that. I'm not entirely sure, but it does seem to be some sort of a system where you get points and then invest those into your skills later on. Alright, so there's an example, too, of me trying to be all stealthy and then, you know, coming around a corner and then a full group of enemies just, like, detecting me right then and there. So let's say screw that. There we go. Yep, take that, pal. Just deal with them with that grenade. Boom. That's all they get. So yeah, that worked. That was a tactic, right? And then more enemies start coming over, and it's the typical like, hey, he's got a shotgun. Let me rush him with my set of keys that I'm gonna scratch him real bad with. No, pal, you don't want to do that. Stay back. Shoot at me. Like the archers are smart, but the melee enemies I think should just run away. But also, I've heard from the developers in this game, and I tried this, but I don't know if this is true. Apparently, now listen to this and give this a try yourself, and let me know what you think about this down below. Apparently, there is a way, and I'm not sure how this works or how it's done, but if you point a gun at an enemy, you're supposed to have, like, you remember in Metal Gear Solid like 2 when you're supposed to be able to hold up enemy guards? Apparently, you can, even if your gun is empty, the enemy might not know that, right? But if you point your gun at an enemy and try to hold them up or try to, like, get them to stop fighting you or something, if you point your gun at them, there is a chance that they will stop fighting and, like, surrender and allow you to loot them or kill them or whatever. Now, I don't know if that's like finding an isolated patrol and like finding one guy and pointing your gun at him and like scaring him or something like that, or if like just by walking around in some of these hostile or rather trespassing areas before they fight you and say, hey man, I don't really trust you here, pal. I wonder if just pointing a gun at them gets them to surrender and you find out they're not so bad after all. They're not so tough, that kind of thing. Not sure, but they definitely did tell us to try it, and I did try to point my gun at a few people and not shoot to see what would happen. But now we're going to go more stealthy, as I mentioned. So we're going into the tall grass. We're trying to use melee weapons. I also didn't really take much time in this playthrough to find out what melee weapon was better than another in terms of, like, is there a blunt damage? Is there cut damage? I'd imagine that, a cricket bat is probably going to do a little bit more damage than a knife, but a knife is going to do some pretty good damage too, plus also bleed, right? Like, the more you swipe at somebody with a knife, you should be able to instill that, debuff on them and have them bleed and possibly bleed out and die, which I'm not quite sure if I've seen that or not in this playthrough. I know we can bleed and that we can use the bandages for that, but I'm not sure if the enemy will actually die of that, or if we can use something like with poison. Now, we have a lot of that in this game. There's like poison prevention, there's also like anti-rad and stuff like that. So there's radiation poisoning and sickness, and there's also like chemical toxicity and things like that. So it's really important to like carry some of those on you. So again, that's why I go back to that inventory system being so painfully small, is that you got to carry. It's like if you've those of you who've ever traveled internationally, or even if you've just gone on to a flight before, even if you're going somewhere for the first time, I think we all tend to overpack. And so like you think to yourself like, okay, I'm going into this unknown land. I better bring every like 4 different guns, every ammo type for that gun, also knives, also a backup knife because I'm not sure if they have durability, that kind of thing. That's what you're thinking. Then I better bring bandages, but I also better bring food. And, because of your inexperience, you bring so many things that you don't need to, and then you're not sure what you should pick up in the battlefield. But definitely pick up those crafting materials, right? Always pick up things like string and glass and wire, a cloth to make bandages, alcohol, those kinds of things. All important in a game like this. So open world, yes. Survival, yes. Crafting, yes. Although you don't have to eat and stuff like that. But then again, those original, if you remember all the way back in the PlayStation 1 Resident Evil games, they called those survival horror games. That's how they marketed them. And so nowadays we think like, oh, you got to build a house and you have to cook food and store things in a box, and then I have to maintain maybe heat and cold temperatures, like protect myself from that. But no, I think the survival here is just like the story, and that maybe you're like a crash pilot or something like that. They do show some of the helicopters from the 50s and 60s here as well. That may have been other rescue teams of modern times, or maybe from before. There's a lot of military vehicles here, and I'm not sure exactly why it was. It could have been like with Chernobyl, where when the nuclear plant was going up, they brought in the military to maintain order, evacuate everybody, and then go in and figure out what's going on. Because in this case, it's sci-fi, and there's creatures and things, so they probably sent in the military, not just for a cover-up, but also to find out what the hell was going on, like report back on what they were finding. So a little bit of a shrine here. Blessed be to shotgun shells and alcohol and some other... Oh yeah, this is something I got to tell my friend Red about, the Cornish pasties. Oh, apparently those are a thing. and a lot of people like those. And I don't know what that is, and I don't want to know. I just want to try it for myself. I got to go to the UK and go see some awesome Renaissance festivals and see some of the architecture and how things are laid out and whatnot. I think it'll give me a better idea for when I build things in city builders and stuff like that. I do honestly enjoy that in games. And so it's really cool to see how these worlds are laid out, especially when you've gone to these places or if you've lived here. And that is one of the comments that you guys have given a lot, is that, you know, you really like the landscape and think that it like is actually matching what it should be, but of course is made up for the game. There's some fictionalization here. So good times for sure when it comes to what they've been able to do. All right, yep, so we're going to creep around in the tall grass, and this area reminds me of that one area in Last of Us 2 where it's constantly raining and you're kind of stealthing between all the suburban homes and stuff like that. I always get that vibe whenever I see overgrown cars like sitting out in a lot and things like that with tall grass around. So, all right, now it is time to get into the enemy base and get a little bit more confused as to what the hell this game is. So it does seem like the game also has a lot of secrets and puzzles and things like that that they're not necessarily directly showcasing just yet. Oh, wow. Now, when it comes to the combat with the with archery, you've really got to hold back on that bow and arrow too before you shoot. But another thing I've noticed, can't get your arrows back. You shoot somebody 3 or 4 times with an arrow, and it's not in their body, it's not laying nearby, they're just gone. Like a bullet, it's just in their body, even though you could easily pull it out. So, you know, that's that. Alright, so this is a side entrance area into the castle ruins. And there's also the big door, and they're seemingly not interconnected. There's an area here that's under the castle, where we are now, and then there's an area that's in the castle, which we'll go to later through those big double doors that you saw. But it seems like these areas are kind of like Ratchet. There is a way for the player to go into them, and then there's that easy way out. You remember playing a lot of... you might remember this often in God of War and God of War 2, where when Kratos would be, you know, you'd be playing and you'd go through a huge fight and then you'd kick down a ladder or a chain or something like that and you'd realize, oh, we're right back at the boat. So if only you'd kick down, if there was some way to kick down that ladder, you would have skipped the last like 20 minutes of combat or something like that. So this very much has that too, where you'll go through a whole area and then magically there's just a door that you can push open and it'll lead you right back to the beginning. And it's always hidden off into some corner or something like that. Seems to be supply boxes around called Bard supply boxes. Those have some of the best items in the game. A little bit like an airdrop. But I was expecting to find like something along the lines of a good gun from those. Not something that's rusty. But, yeah. I just want more carry capacity in this game, man. I think you're going to have to settle on one gun and just use that gun the whole time. Unless it's like if you bring a Sten gun, right, and you have the magazine full and you just have it in like slot 3, that's it, right? All the ammo that you have for that gun is just in that gun. And if you get into a pinch or a boss battle, then that's when you should pull out that gun and not give any extra space to it. You know, no extra ammo in your other slots, unless you happen to find some in a crate, and then it's like, well, can I bring that back to a major box? Like, you know, is there a big storage area for me, or no?
You'll die for this. I'm hurt. Whoa.
The melee combat sounds are really good. All the crunching and the slicing is very good. And I also remember reading some of your comments too, and some people, and I haven't played this game yet, but is this anything like Dishonored? Some people were mentioning some things about Dishonored, and for those of you who played that, let me know if you see any similarities between Dishonored and this game for the melee, and let me know, should I actually play Dishonored as well? I hear it's a good game, and I just haven't been ever able to find some time to play it, but yeah. And I've also heard that they're not quite getting it right, too, with accents that are more Lancashire than Cumbrian. So for me, I don't know what that means exactly. Pardon my ignorance, but I'm not exactly sure. And there's frickin', yeah, vampire bats. And this is the type of situation where it's like, okay, are they attacking the enemy too? Or are they like being biased? Like they're just attacking the player, the bats that pissed off everybody? Or that they all got pissed off? Like what happened? Alright, so at least going back to what I said, at least the AI is somewhat dumb so you can enjoy your fights and not stress over everything. It's not like playing an endless loop of Sifu or something like that. At least these are winnable. Alright, so now we're going to take some painkillers. And we're going to take those painkillers to give us a little bit of damage resistance boost. And that will last for some time. It's like that in Kingdom Come Deliverance as well and a few other games. Although I didn't see if it would say a countdown timer, it would be nice to know, hey, this lasts for 10 minutes or something, and to see an on-screen timer. It would be helpful. Also, come to think of it too, I really like the UI and the menu regardless. I think the map looks really good. I think the backpack looks really good. I think the notes section, though, needs a little bit of work. And also, I need to know and confirm for myself on how objective tracking will work. When we're inside caves like this, spoiler alert, the thing that we're looking for is not in this cave, but there is kind of a boss in this cave. It's a High Priestess. Like the only enemy of that type that we see in this entire video is called a High Priestess. And she's covered in mist and stuff like that, and she's being all weird, but she's still kind of rather easy to beat. But when we go to the other area, the main castle area, when we're inside there, the game doesn't really tell us what we're looking for or where to find it. So, and I did notice that there were a few puzzles, like we're supposed to find keys and then put them into a fireplace. So we'll get to that in a little bit, but this game is certainly not as straightforward as I was expecting. But I am delighted by the open worldness of this a little bit more than, like, for example, Avowed. And I also like this a little bit like being different than Kingdom Come Deliverance, where it seems like every inch of land there's enemies. In Kingdom Come Deliverance, and I'm only saying that because that's just a recent RPG that I've been playing the hell out of, and I think we're all going to be comparing all these games with each other because they are RPGs in the year of 2025 that could contend for, Game of the Year, right? But that's probably going to go to something else, right? But regardless, I think I really like how, when you're going down a road, you could encounter enemies, but you can also avoid them at the same time in a much smaller space. It feels like you don't have to travel very far, and so the threat is always a constant thing, which might get exhausting, but I like the difference between the other games that I've been playing with that. So, I'm really proud of myself. I haven't died in like 10 minutes or something like that. So finally we're getting into some combat that's, quite fun. Although it's me with a shotgun versus people with knives. But then again, I'm also getting some knife combat in from time to time and trying out the melee and getting more comfortable with that. And I think this might be a game where they're trying to, especially at the beginning of the game, lean you towards melee all the time. And, I don't think anybody wants to just do a game like this is too fun to just do stealth all the time and to just do melee all the time and to just do guns all the time. Like sometimes it maybe is best on the situation where it's like, hey, sneak in there and get me something. Your options are, sneak in there and get that thing, or start going in guns blazing and shoot everybody and loot everything that isn't bolted down, which I would definitely want to do. But I also want to try both methods. And hell, this could be the type of game where I want to, because of the AI being somewhat dumb, yet also very smart at times, it's definitely the game where I want to continuously experiment. And I've done this in KCD2 and a few other RPGs where I'll save before going into an enemy camp and then go in and just see what happens. Start shooting, don't shoot, block, like see how the AI will respond and how it will react to what we're doing. And I think that's nice for all sorts of different people's playstyles. There might be somebody who wants to play this game just with a bow and arrow most of the time. And that'd be pretty cool to watch somebody doing just stealth kills and then moving bodies. Although, I'm not sure if you can do that in this game either. The enemy does react to bodies. They definitely do notice when an enemy, or one of their allies, I guess, has been downed. And then they'll say, hey, body, and then everyone will start looking around and start patrolling. So it would be cool to have that added option as well. So yeah, but this is another example, at least for me, of wandering around looking for something that I don't know. I don't know what I'm looking for. I don't know where it is, and I don't even know if I'm in the right place. And after it loaded that instance of this new underground cavern system, I don't know if this is even connected to the castle or if I'm in the castle ruins, and it turns out I'm not. So if we're looking for something, we need to make sure we go to the precise location, although when we did go into this area, it did say that it was in the castle ruins. So there could be 3 or 4 other doors that lead to other parts of the castle that we didn't find. Isn't that fun? So I'm also trying to find the High Priestess. I'm also trying to find that documentation for Majo or whatever her name is. And I'm also trying to see if there's any loot boxes or something to get a better weapon. Again, when I was playing this, you know, we only got about less than 2 hours to play this, and I wanted to bulldoze through as quickly as possible to see the different locations and also all the different weapons and enemies and things like that. So, you know, I probably walked past literally machine guns and bazookas and all sorts of cool equipment, but just also trying to keep my head on the swivel for traps, which were so prominent in the above ground section. And I think we even disarmed a trap at the beginning of this section too. Also, some people were saying best looking fire that they've ever seen in a game, and I think they were being genuine too. In the previous playthrough that we played, we were in a completely different area, different objectives, doing different things, and there was like a large bonfire, and I think a lot of people thought the fire looked good. Certainly appreciate good fire effects, especially if you're going to be underground the whole time. Uh-oh. Getting shot at still. Oh boy. The lighting is very pretty though, and they've done a good job of kind of adding some weird mysticism to things. That's not overly done too much yet. And also the dialogue options while we were with the trader, I didn't make mention of this right away, but it did say kind of what our response would be, like if we would be curious or defensive or something like that. So I wonder how deep that goes in terms of this being one of those your choices matter games, which I never believe. Like most games have, oh, here's the High Priestess. They'll have like 1 or 2 things you can do to change the ending, and then that's about it. But there are still factions and things like that, which I guess is cool, but whatever. Okay, well, the High Priestess is dead. I was looking for the book on the High Priestess, thinking like, oh, okay, I found my objective. I just got to kill the High Priestess and leave. Cool. And I didn't find anything on the High Priestess that was of value. And now trying to change our inventory around a little bit. Ooh, another crate. Or that was one we got before. Now we got it. Now we got it. So I do one more final sweep, but yep, as I'm doing that, there's also a trap in the basement, yep. And so you can see all the bodies of people that it killed. So then I'm thinking to myself, okay, this must be where it is, right? This is where the High Priestess was. It's like a trap area. But, no. Princess is in another castle, boys. I'm sorry to report it, but, you know, bearer of bad news here. Mm-hmm. And I think this is when I finally figured out, too, that the bandages are used for more than just the, you know, for bleeding. They're also used for damage. Because I didn't have time to read. I just didn't have time. It is hard to report on a game like this, too, because it's such an in-depth RPG, and I didn't get a chance to even do the basics. And sometimes we rush past all the basics, which is, I know it's frustrating sometimes. But at least we're able to see something that does have a lot of potential here. And again, I'm really interested to see how this game is going to begin and what they have us doing, and to see if it keeps my attention. And I can already say I feel like I'm playing in this year already too many RPGs. I mean, we've got Assassin's Creed, Shadow's coming out soon. Yeah, I know. But I have to play it, right? Because, you know, I'm a streamer and people want to see it. And, you know, I make videos too. So we got to see if it's bad or if it sucks, then how much bad and how much sucks does it suck. You know what I mean? And it's the same for this game too. So we also picked up a thing there just a moment ago, a lead battery, which does seem to have given us some sort of a point to spend. It looks like we got 2 skill points there up in the upper right corner. And I don't know if I noticed that yet, but I'm not sure if that came from either the lead battery or if that came from us just kind of killing enemies. So I'm still yet unsure of how that works just yet. I also thought experience was earned and was given to us by completing you know, tasks and things like that, like objectives in addition to combat. But again, I'm not entirely sure. I don't know. It's whatever. We'll get them when we get them. So at this point, I'm having like an emotional breakdown, both in real life right now, but also in the game, because I'm trying to think like, okay, where the hell is this book? Where is this page this lady's looking for? I've circled back a few times now, and I don't want to go back down to the pit of despair. So then I just say screw it, and then we actually go and discover a whole new area, which is I think that's bad. I don't like that. Just show me exactly where an objective is. You don't have to tell me the precise location, but have a common courtesy to tell me to go into a particular door, especially when you say, hey, go to this castle, and if the castle has like 3 or 4 different doors that lead to 3 or 4 different sub areas that are this large, players are going to like not actually make a lot of progression in the story. And if they want to, I don't know, eventually you're going to get bored of shooting and killing and upgrading, and you're going to want to go see like where does the story take you. That's, I mean, one of the things that you get with the game is the story, so it'd be nice to see that develop. And yeah, I don't know. All right, time to go back outside. A beautiful load screen, and I think also the loading screens are from the actual area in which you're loading into. So it doesn't take like a large, you know, just 150 photos from all over the map. I think they actually take a few different photos, like 4 or 5, from the area you're loading into, and then it shows you that. So that's a nice little touch. I mean, that earns a point for me. Time to deal with the 22. Oh, it's going to be awesome. Shooting 1 bullet at a time. No extendo banana clips, no extendo mags, nothing like that. Just good old-fashioned shooting with my 22. Now, this is going to be hilarious. Watch what happens. I'm not going to say anything, but you tell me. Yeah. And now, you know what idea I'm getting. That just, yep, that just happened. Rewind it if you missed it. But that just happened, dude. So now I want to replicate what just happened a few times in a row. So let's toy around with the enemies and see if we can recreate the momentous hilarity that just occurred. And this guy's actually climbing down the ladder, right? So the first 2, I fell down, and these 2 seem to have flung themselves off the cliff, you know, to come after me. They're so dedicated to the cause. But it does look like you can camp ladders and just endlessly slaughter enemies that try to come down a ladder. Which is good, because that means we're going to pick up a ton of ammo and food, you know, supplies we need. I had so much fun with this little ladder thing. This is what I like to do, man. People get irritated with me for goofing around with AIs and stuff like this, and just play the game. And this is the game, damn it. How the enemy responds is hilarious and makes the game. Meaning, there's a vast difference to, you know, how enemies work in this game than how they work in like GoldenEye 64, right? I mean, Regardless, I'd say maybe sometimes GoldenEye's AI was a little smarter than this was. I mean, I'm being honest. I mean, who the hell? Oh no, my friend just got shot on the ladder. Better get down the ladder.
That was a close one, chum.
Time to billet. Oh, hell's teeth.
Come on, you lot. Take a fight to them.
Hell's teeth.
So it looks like too, when people fall down a ladder, maybe, or if they get shot off a ladder, they get stunned when they hit the ground, and then you can just finish them off. But it's hard to know who's dead and who's not. I mean, I don't want to waste an extra shotgun shell or a bullet. And just shoot first and stab everybody to death. Love it. I had fun though. That's important. Fun enough to just continue playing. And there's also all those traders across the map too. So all these little items we're picking up, like little extra hatchets and axes and stuff, they could sell for good money. But I sure as hell don't want to lug, you know, a very minor, and look at this lady. The face she's giving me right now. Oh, come on, bruh. Bruh.
There is someone there.
But yeah, I sure as hell don't want to go across the entire map and, you know, bring, I don't know, a bunch of knives to a guy to sell just to get some basic money to buy ammo. It just seems tedious and not fun. Maybe it will be fun. I don't know. Alright. So we're making some more bandages. Getting ready for some more fun combat. Anticipating some of the enemy's moves, right? And I learned with the frickin' bandages, dude. 10 things I wish I knew before I played 2 hours of ATOMFALL. Look at this, guys. I finally, after all that sidetracking, I finally figured out how to use a door. I'm so damn proud, dude. So proud. So now we're where we're supposed to be, I believe, because there are clues about the journal in this area, and there's even a hidden room at some point that has a key that I guess we have to find. So we got to find a key to get in this back room, and then maybe get this lady's. This is just, she's lost it like an herbalist journal. And I was actually able to watch other players play while I was playing too. So I was able to see, like, there was like a big screen up of everybody's, like there was 8 other people playing at the same time as me. Some people you probably heard of or that you really know. And when I was playing, I was watching. I looked over from time to time, and it looks like everybody else was where I was at the same time, and they were watching me too. So I guess in a way we were all helping each other out. Where it was like, oh, he got into the cat. Oh, he went through the door. Okay, so we were all kind of giving each other visual cues as to like, oh, this is like where you can go. This is what you can do. So that was cool. And at this point, like everybody was in the castle, and I particularly remember like all this kind of like green and yellowness to the castle because it's all hanging ivy during the day. And speaking of which, I don't think this game has a day-night cycle, which I, for one, welcome. I cannot tell you how many times I wish I could turn it off in certain games, like especially if it's just kind of a simulator or something like that. I get, you know, in a simulator game that doesn't matter. And in a game like this, maybe it does, but it always seems to be daytime. But it is nice though. Then again, you wouldn't be able to see a damn person at night. There's no real lights here.
Oh, God, that's all.
Come on,
You bugger.
Come on, we've got to turn the tables.
Look at that. They shot me. I don't know if you saw that, but it seemed like they shot me through the corner. Yeah. So not too many enemies in this area, actually. There's probably 5. I find 4 of them right away, and somebody else is hiding up on a balcony. And it does seem to fit into the Druid lore, though. There's succulents everywhere. I think they're eating these as food. because as you come into the banquet hall, they're just having a big O salad fest. Although maybe there's some meat and stuff around. They're probably eating like boar and things that they find in the forest, but tons of like vegetables and things like that, and plants. So that's kind of a nice added touch. They put in some detail like that, and the castle looks beautiful. Very cool stuff. So the last enemy is above us, and then, you know, I'm going to wander around this castle for a while. And again, the set dressing is all here for it to look good. They certainly put a lot of detail on the interiors as they did the exteriors. Torches and what looks to be like water and drainage ditches and cobble and like just generic debris seems to be everywhere. Debris that looks to be accurate, you know, not like just a bunch of messy papers and tin cans around, but like, you know, some stones and things that have been pulled up and rugs that are absolutely filthy, but they seem to fit the castle for sure.
I'll find you. Just a matter of time.
Also trying to find out where the hell this lady is. And I was hoping that, so the Mother Jago thing pops up there, and I'm thinking, oh, did I find what I was looking for finally? But it just seems to be something related to her, but not to the main quest, so I don't know.
They're around here somewhere.
And again at the top, we're trespassing, so I guess that means that the moment we're spotted, enemies will attack us. But I haven't seen anything in between. I haven't seen like a, you know, when you get close to and possibly enemy or hostile faction, they're more protecting themselves because they don't know who you are and they don't trust you. So if you stay away from them, it'll just be yellow if they notice you. And now I'm doing that thing that we all do at a certain point to find out, okay, is this the type of game where you can block debris? Where are the other paths? There does seem to be a door upstairs that does open, and there's also a keyhole downstairs too. But the door upstairs is barred from the other side, so it's one of those one-way passes like I told you before. And, yeah, I don't know. So I'm going to go look around for a key briefly, but they're just telling us at this point, I think, to wrap things up. So I'm going to go outside and goof around with a little bit more of the combat, which at this point has been fun. Like, at the beginning, there were the other group that looked to be soldiers. They were well-trained, well-armed, and they had some pretty good tactics. The Druids have been fun because they're just stupid. And there does at least seem to be some variety where they're programmed that way to try to be a little bit more, you know, like a meat shield, and they're not necessarily fighters. It definitely does seem like there's a difference in experience that way. So that's fun. Alright, time to leave and go goof around. Back to Casterfell Woods. I also do like how they made a... If you've noticed this, this seems to be a Druid-style Molotov cocktail. For the wick, they actually use like dried grass, and it looks like they use twine or something to wrap around it, or thatch or something like that. And they've used a different colored bottle, so it looks like there's different styles of equipment in the game, which show that it was made by different factions, but it seems to work all the same.
Damn it. Lost some. He's still there. I'm taking a shot. It's ours. I see you. You'll pay for this in blood.
Doing a little snack in there to heal up as well.
Unbelievers.
Where have you got to? There, I've spotted you.
I'm bleeding!
You're fine. Keep going. Heretics will die. I'm hurt bad. Right. Whoa.
And also another cool thing there where the AI is responding to each other, saying, you know, hey, keep going, there's one, you know, keep up the attack, you know, I'm wounded, that kind of thing. It looks like, you know, the dialogue changes based on if there's an ally nearby, and if so, if they're taking damage or whatever. Like he said, I'm taking damage or whatever. I'm hurt bad, or, oh, keep in the fight, you know, after responding to the fact that they mentioned they were taking damage or were hurt. So pretty cool. I mean, we're starting to see a lot more complex dialogue systems in games, and I hope we continue to see a lot more of that. Also, I'm checking the potatoes to see if they make a mention of boil them, mash them, or stick them in a stew. Lost opportunity here. So if you really want to know my opinion, I think this is a 0 out of 10. Just unplayable. I mean, no actual reference to boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew when there's actually potatoes.
Death to the bastard. They've gone.
I saw that. What the?
Oh yeah, testing out a little bit of the stealth here to see how easily the enemy can identify us and like rush up on us, and then also weapon melee. So I'm gonna goof around with that a little bit to see what it's like to hit somebody with a cricket bat versus the butt of a rifle.
You bugger.
So I think the advantage of the cricket bat is probably that it has a better range. And maybe does more damage. Also, it seems weapon ranges are a little weird too. Like some of our short knives almost act like they're long swords. I know, KCD2 again, right? But yeah, ma'am. No, no, no. No, 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 ma'am. No, no, no. Anyway, yeah, so it looks like the melee weapon range is like really crazily long for us, it feels, or it's not like so balanced, but for the enemy it seems to be somewhat accurate. But then they also do these weird leaping attacks and try to go for these extendo melee attacks, which are really weird. Also, let's kill whatever the hell one of these things are. I have no idea what this is, but it also doesn't seem to have noticed me or cared that I continue to shoot it. And so then, well, I mean, you'll see what happens. This is weird. So I, shoot it with the stealth weapon, and then it just knows kind of where I am. I don't know how this thing works. Like, does it have eyes? Does it smell me? Can it hear me? I don't know. So yeah, let's try fire with water. They do seem to mix.
Help me! I'm bleeding!
What the? I'm bleeding! You will be more use dead!
Yep, so trying to go around the corner, dealing with those archers. They do seem to be able to throw through the shoot through the damn wall. I don't know. I'm gonna have to test this more.
Where have you got to? Right there. Fine, pal. You killed them all. Take this.
Alright, when we're done here, we're going to go find an individual who seems to be a trader, and it seems like the traders are not only just merchants, but maybe also quest givers. And the guy we're about to talk to reminds me of like a Fallout character, it just has the Fallout vibe 100%. And his skin is all blue, and it reminds me of, there was a guy, you may have seen this, there was like a meme for it before, whatever. There's a guy named Paul Carrison. And he died in 2013, but at the age of, I think, 60-something. And he was a guy who used some sort of a silver treatment, and he would rub it all over his skin. And it was a skin condition called aguria, I think it is. And, he looked like the girl from Willy Wonka. Like skin turning all blue, almost like paint. And the character here, I don't know how they're going to explain it in the game. But it is pretty cool if they tie in some sort of a radiation sickness, if that has anything to do with it. If Aguria can be caused from that as well, different mineral elements and things like that. If they have different Fallout-like characters here in this game that aren't just, you know, humans surviving in the zone, if we get something that's a little bit more, you know, like Fallout / Stalker in terms of it kind of being, you know, nuclear mysticism or atomic mysticism or something like that, it would be pretty cool. Now, I got to try out this damn killing of the bird, too. This damn bird irritated the hell out of me for tipping off the enemy a few times, so I tried to shoot this bird a few times with the bow and arrow, and no luck. So I don't know if once the bird is alerted, the bird just continues to ping off and give away your position, or if you gotta kill the thing when it's stealthy. Like once he's active, maybe he just keeps screaming and summons enemies towards you. I don't know. Couldn't get him to die though. I also even tried to shoot the cage down by firing at the at the rope, but no luck there. Also trying to do some long distance shots. It's great. The distance in which the enemy can fire is actually pretty cool. If they are capable marksmen with a gun or a bow and arrow or crossbow, whatever weapons are also in the game, that's pretty cool that they can shoot that far. Additionally, I also want to see if in the game the enemy will throw any sort of like I don't know, Molotov or something like that. Oh, I actually and believe it or not, I actually died there. But it's a good opportunity then to goof around even further and take a look at some more of the load screens. So exciting, isn't it? Now, the good thing is we're back to where we can go chat with that guy pretty close to the castle. So we're going to go find the man I just mentioned, and we'll go see what his story is. And, you know, hear a little bit more accents and voice acting in the game. We're almost there then. But anyway, I'm going to let the rest of the video play out. I just wanted to thank you guys for dropping by. I know this was like a mega extendo video, but I think every second of this footage helps you all to make a decision on whether or not you want to get this game for yourself on, I believe it's March 27th, or to swing by the channel and see a little bit more on your own. But now, listen it out. Thanks for dropping by. Thanks for all the likes, and I'll see you soon.
To brass tacks, it might be a good idea to clear the air a bit, you know. I know I don't look, well, entirely normal. I just wanted to raise it. I know it can bother folk. I mean, unless it don't trouble you at all. Well, that depends, I suppose. Depends on whether you hear a voice, like, in the soil. Well, I suppose that means you're not one of them, else you wouldn't ask. There's a group of Druids or summit that camp out near here. I heard they used to live on an island in the mere before it all went to cock. All very civil before then, but now they all wear masks and have gone proper vicious. Not with me, mind. The eyes, you see. I think that's what does the trick. They must reckon I'm one of their lot. But I promise you, I'm not going to kill you and chew on your bones. Although I wish I hadn't said that now. Makes it sound like I might. I can trade with you if you've got out to trade. I'm Billy Gorse, by the way. To be honest, I've no bloody idea. Your guess is as good as mine. I know there's something in the earth that's been, well, infecting folk, I suppose. Most go crackers and join them other maniacs in woods. Others turn to something worse. Couldn't tell you why, but I've kept my marbles. I might be the only one who has. Ah, well now, ain't that the nub of it? Some say it was something them boffins are making in the labs. Others say it was something that was always here. Only now it's awake. I prefer not to think on it. Proper grisly thought, isn't it? Oh, there's not much anyone knows about them. Not really. Just that they want to return this place to nature. Always scavenging man-made things to take back to their castle. Old cars, bits of metal, them glowy batteries, you name it. Probably offering it all up to their voice in the soil. They take people too. Don't know what they do with people. Makes you shiver just to think about it. Stay safe out there.